This is TWiT.
Biggest story, of course, Satya Nadella dropped the other shoe and is firing 14% of Microsoft's employees, the largest layoff in the history of Microsoft. They announced this, of course, on Thursday, but Nadella had kind of telegraphed that it was coming in a couple of cryptic emails in which he implied that we were realigning the company. Most of these employees, something like 12,500, were Nokia employees. So I think while it is a huge layoff, it does seem to me that of these 18,000 jobs, the vast majority really are redundant people that were acquired when they merged with Nokia. Ben, is this a sign that Microsoft's in trouble, or is Microsoft doing the right thing?
Well, I mean, it's funny because I've actually been on vacation for the last week, and which is unfortunate that these came down at the time, because if there's,
this is your natural beat, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I've written about, probably more than anything else, is Microsoft specifically, the challenges they're facing, how I think they need to kind of align themselves going forward. And actually, I thought the first memo in particular was very encouraging.
He got you too.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to go to the mat on this. I think a lot of the criticism focusing on like word length and all this sort of stuff,
3,000 words
but I mean, when you're dealing with a company of 130,000 people, I mean, it's easy enough to sit on the side and say it ought to be like this, without appreciating like, this is how it works in a very large corporation with tons of people who are going to be hanging on every word, and you don't worry about keeping the company moving. So there's just a lot that goes into these emails. I agree, in a vacuum, it would be great if they could be short, succinct, and punchy with a comedic twist towards the end. But that's not the way these communications work. And actually, for communications, for Microsoft communication in particular, I thought it was pretty clear. Like it was we're going from a company that just a year ago had their CEO saying everything's about Windows, Windows matters, Windows, to a very long email that said the word Windows, at least in the context of the PC operating system, one time. It said the word Nokia one time. Yeah. And people focusing on that, there's no change, in my opinion, could not be more wrong with that. And specifically, like it was a complete refocusing of the company, and I wrote, it was very clear that there were further shoes to come down, and obviously one of them came down this week.
That's what Jean-Louis Gasset said. This is the typical email from a CEO. I know. I used to be president at Apple, where you don't want to be too specific, but you want to kind of be able to point to the email and say, "See, I warned you we were going to be laying people off. I told you."
Well, I mean, the layoffs were, I thought they were quite clear in the email. When
it was obvious they were going to have to
organizing.
You know what? When they acquired Nokia, it was obvious. Nokia has, 25,000 employees? There was a lot of overlap.
Yeah, and that's probably the most disappointing thing, honestly, is the fact that post Nokia, they're still larger than they were pre-Nokia. And I've actually been writing and suggesting that they're going to need more layoffs. I've been writing they're going to need layoffs before the Nokia thing even happened. Yeah. Which I do still think is the case. If you talk about being a productivity company where you're not one of the major platforms, you don't need 105,000 people. And so it would have been better, in my opinion, to have cut deeper and to try to have done it just one time, because I'm not sure that this is going to be enough.
It's pretty clear the stock market stock market always likes cutting jobs, because that means lower costs, theoretically higher profits. But the stock market reacted pretty well. Microsoft stock took a fairly big jump.
Microsoft's stocks have been sailing. I mean, they are up, like they were stuck between 25 and 30 for like a decade. Yeah. And they've been in the 40s for quite a while. And again, I don't think that's I think that's because for anyone that's being serious about it, like there's been very clear shifts. Like you don't turn an oil. I wanted to write something. So I was trying to look for the right analogy. I was trying to find like how long does it take to like turn a super tanker, and it takes something like 8 hours. Like once you like start the turning process, like it takes it doesn't happen right away. And this is the thing with Microsoft is if ever there were a super tanker in tech, it's them, for better or worse. And to me, that first memo was saying, okay, turn starboard. And the actual process of turning it starboard to then express disappointment that it hasn't yet turned around is to me to be kind of, well, there's a word for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's not a nice one.
You remember it. You don't want to say it. Dan, sometimes I feel like we're only talking about Microsoft because historically they've been important. But is Microsoft still relevant in a world where everybody's using smartphones and tablets and the cloud?
Well, yeah, of course it's still important, and everyone's using those things. But a few hundred million people are also using PCs and Windows, so they're clearly important. Their document formats are still largely standard. They're doing a lot of stuff that is going to be with us for a long time to come. And I agree on that memo. It was certainly wordy and it was certainly all over the place, but you had to read it, I think, in the context of like a State of the Union address, where every department in the government is fighting to get some language in, where it's almost always a giant mess, and most presidents go on way too long when they give it. I think it's in that category. And I really agree with Ben that this is a significant shift. I still don't quite understand why they bought Nokia in the first place.
In fact, they're retrenching a little bit because those Nokia X devices, which were Android phones, looks like at least some of them are now going to be Windows phones again.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry just to jump in, but this is the thing that really irks me about this is people saying blame. Like, I don't know Nadella, but to blame him for Microsoft's state, as a lot of this criticism.
Oh no,
does.
he inherited it. No.
Yeah, I mean this.
He's doing the best he can to dig out from years of mismanagement, I think.
Well, it wasn't just the years of mismanagement, though. I mean, what Ballmer did on his way out of the company with reorganizing and then buying Nokia, like, compounded to a significant degree in all the problems that Microsoft had. And
Ballmer left him with Windows 8, a giant Nokia acquisition, and a whole new goal: devices and services.
Well, it's not a goal. It's a tactic, and it's a tactic that makes no sense.
Yeah, has Nadella abandoned devices and services as an idea?
Yes, that was the best thing about the memo, was he actually very explicitly moved on from devices and services. He's like, this was nice, but we need to move on, and this is what we're going to do instead. And so that
I'd have liked to have been at that board meeting. Steve Ballmer's still on the board. Bill Gates is on the board. I'd like to be on the fly on the wall. Satya says, "Hey, by the way, we're going to change that. You know that devices and services thing? We're not going to do